Breakfast.
Today, we see how stripping back evangelism to its core, or just answering the question, have you not heard about Jesus, can be a really good conversation starter. Now, last week we saw the celebration for the annual World Book Day, and Ruth Dickson, a worship minister and author, who has put together an animation of her book, which is available on YouTube. And it follows a little girl as she travels the world sharing the good news of Jesus. I want to welcome to the studio this morning Ruth Dickson. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning, Nicky.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
You look very rested and refreshed and ready to go. I have to say that the book, I've seen the cover and I've been given a copy, which I'll give to my little girl, but it looks really, really, really good, and I'm really pleased that someone has thought about this for children, because sometimes for parents, how do you introduce Jesus to your children?
That's right.
And sometimes it can be an issue. Before we get on to the book, though, tell us a bit about yourself. Besides writing this book, what else do you do?
Well, I sing, and I write. I do a lot of evangelical publications online. So I'm an online evangelist, and I sing as well.
Wow, you sing. Where do you sing?
Well, I get invited to sing in churches. Sometimes I get, if there are conferences taking place, I support them in many ways, either with the spoken word or singing. I do travel abroad as well.
Fantastic.
For conferences to support them in their evangelical ministry.
So am I guessing then that your journey in terms of a writer, you began maybe writing songs and stuff like that, poems, and then it
progressed into writing. Yeah.
Wow. And have you written a lot of music, a lot of songs? Or?
Yes, I write all my songs myself. I started writing songs in 1998, and the first song I wrote I gave to the worship leader of my church, and it just went on from there. I started writing before singing. You
started writing before singing, so at heart you're a writer?
Yes.
Wow. And is this your first book?
Oh, certainly not. I've written several books. Books on biblical characters, Ruth in the Bible, David, Solomon, various children's stories and other stories as well. I've written a book on humility, and I'm currently writing a book on creation.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now tell us a little bit about your upbringing, Ruth. Did you, I know that you didn't grow up in a Christian household, so to speak. So how did you find Christ?
Well, I would say I went to church as, you know when you're dragged along with your mum.
Dragged along. I just got an image of you, mum grabbing your hair and dragging you.
So I was dragged along as a child to church, to a Baptist church, but I didn't believe or anything. I had no conversion in my heart. Went on, in life, and occasionally then I would be invited to a service here and there. And then while at university, there was a young girl called Nena, and she was born again, and I didn't have born again friends, but she just made herself my friend, and she was very persistent. She would always come to me, share the gospel.
So you're getting a bit of feedback here, and I'm just going to fix it for you. Go ahead.
And I was quite open to what she had to say. I believe that she was constantly praying for me, because each time she would come to me, I would, listen to everything she had to say. And I recently hooked up with her this year, actually. And, she was telling me more about how the Lord was speaking to her about me. But obviously she couldn't tell me then. And that's why she was so persistent.
Yes.
She would give me books. She would, she made herself my friend. And I believe that it's her prayers and prayers of other people I met along the way that have brought me here today.
So would you say her style of evangelism almost has affected you and influenced you? Her being kind, cooking for you, doing these things. That's what evangelism is.
That's right.
Yeah, to win people to Christ.
She made herself my friend.
Yes.
She wasn't afraid to make, I was a sinner, and she wasn't afraid to, can I be your friend, kind of. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we are talking to Ruth specifically about evangelism today. She's written a fantastic children's book. It's called I like the title, Have You Not Heard About Jesus? So it answers the question, have you not heard about Jesus? Before the break, we were asking her about her background. We know that she's a writer, she's a praise and worship leader, singer-songwriter, but we're going to get into more about the actual book itself. Ruth, how did you get into writing children's book? And is this your first book of its kind?
No, it's not. The first children's book I wrote was on Ruth in the Bible. I started writing when I went on a missionary trip. And where I went to, they didn't have any children's books. So I had to create some of my own to meet the need of the children. So that's how I started. And it's just blossomed from there.
Wow! So can I ask where you went and what was that all about? It sounds exciting.
I went to Rwanda, and
wow.
a little village called Gitarama, and there was a woman there. She had sort of moved to Rwanda because God had told her to. So she cashed in her pension and she built a children's home.
Fantastic.
And she said she'd been praying for somebody to come and do holiday Bible study workshop with the children for the summer holiday. She didn't just want them not to do anything. She'd been praying, and then she met me and she said, can I do it for her? And I said, yeah, sure. And that's how it started. But there was, the challenge obviously was that they didn't speak English. I spoke English, and you had children not just speaking one language but 3 languages. So we had to, cross that hurdle of getting the book translated into the local languages. So that's how it all started, and then the writing just blossomed from there, because each year she would want me to come back for the short-term mission, and I would work with her, and other churches would say, oh, can we have Ruth, and I just started moving like that. Your gift makes room for you.
I do love these stories because you see where there's a need and someone prays and then God provides. And I suppose even for you, it challenged you. I guess it sounds like
it was the greatest challenge of my life, but such a beautiful one, because it's brought me to where I am today. And I love the Lord for that, because he always knows what's best for us, and he knows where he wants to take us and what he's going to use to do that. And so I just had a picture of you there in Rwanda and having to do all this work, and how am I going to do it, and it just sounds amazing. Would you say that was a really transforming time for you? Was that the pivotal moment for you? Certainly. I think it's shaped everything that I do. A lot of the work I do is evangelical, and also the desire to work with people that don't speak English, not just in Africa now, but in Europe, and translating into different languages. So it's really been the foundation. That was the foundation for everything that I'm doing, that is evangelical, ministering to people.
And our question, myself and Daniel were talking this morning, and it was the question we were asking people to read about obviously we're seeing the refugee crisis, we're seeing people coming in from Syria and different nations. How do we evangelize to those people? And specifically, I know you were coming in, I said this is an opportune moment to discuss this, even these children as well. Do you have anything in mind for these sorts of children?
Certainly. First of all, you meet their physical needs, the needs for shelter, the needs of food and, comfort. And then that gives you an opportunity to, share the gospel. That's a secondary need, but then the primary need, which they need the most, is to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that is, I know that a lot of organizations and churches are sort of reaching out to them with their, holistic needs of shelter, clothing, providing food. And then that gives you an opportunity to, share the gospel, perhaps having a children's nursery or
yes,
set up where the children come to play, and then you can use that as an opportunity to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were saying earlier about what can the church do and what can churches do other than, as you said, give food and shelter and everything else. But you're right, that's a fantastic way for the gospel, for a door to be open for the gospel. Now, as I said earlier, evangelism can be quite a complex topic. How did you come up with the concept of using a child to spread the gospel across the world?
Well, with children, they love creativity. They love to answer questions, and they love to ask questions. So it had to be something creative, something that would that they could copy, and something that they could understand. Children playing together, moving together from one nation to the other. And the children, if you look at the book, they represent the different nations of the world. So it's inclusive. So everyone feels, they can hear the gospel and they can share the gospel. So when Bella, the main character, shares the gospel, she now takes the person that she shared the gospel along with her, and they move to the next nation. And then you see, in the picture, you can see that you've moved to another nation, and then the next scene is another nation as well, and a different character. So it brings them in, and it shows that it's, Jesus is for everyone. Whether you live in England or whether you live in Hawaii or whether you live in Israel, Jesus is there, and, the gospel should be preached. And children can, share the gospel. Yeah.
And I was going to say, I think it's a double-edged sword. You can use it to evangelize to your own children, and then obviously for them to use what they've learnt to evangelize to other children or adults. I just think it's fantastic. And you've gone the extra step in making your book come alive by animating it where it's online. So how did you get that idea of animating the story?
Well, a lot of people read their children bedtime stories, and I know that with the social media now, a lot of people use YouTube. So if you're looking for a story on YouTube for your child to read before he or she goes to sleep, what about a Christian story? What about something that is quite interesting, that also tells them about Jesus, and that concept of evangelism, of friends talking to each other about Jesus, asking the question, have you heard about Jesus? So that's the concept really of hoping not just children who have Christian parents, but anyone who's looking for a story, a bedtime story on YouTube. I know some people use that as kind of like a soothing way to get their child to sleep. Why not a story about Jesus?
Who would you say your book is aimed at, and how has it been received so far?
It's aimed at very young children. It's great for parents to be involved, to read this book to children, Sunday school teachers, grandparents. It's created to involve people, to ask questions and to respond to them. So from babies, because the Bible says even before a child was formed in its mother's womb, he knew them. So you can read to your baby in the womb, or even before you have that child. I encourage parents to read to their children, read to their babies, read to young children at any given opportunity.
Fantastic. All right, so I want you to read a little passage from the book, and over to you.
Have you not heard about Jesus? Have you not heard about Jesus? Bella sang her favourite song, walking down the streets of London. She met a girl named Emily along the way. Emily had bright blonde hair and a bright red jumper. Why are you so happy? Emily asked Bella. Jesus Christ makes me happy. I read about him every day in my Bible, said Bella. Have you not heard about Jesus? Have you not heard about Jesus? Bella yelled out to a young boy walking along the streets in India. Have you heard about Jesus? Bella asked. I would like to be friends with this Jesus. Why do you sing about him? Asked Sanjay. And then they move on, Bella and Sanjay and Emily move on to the next country, so on and so forth. So it goes on like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I have to give you a round of applause there. Now, do you actually? Is it your voice that in the actual online version? No, because you've got such a children's story voice, if I can say.
Well, it's a combination of me and my daughter Deborah and my son Joshua. So the three of us, our voices are on the audiobook on YouTube. So it's encouraging. Well, we did it in such a way that children would love it.
Yeah. No, it's very, very child friendly, definitely. Now, I understand that your book is available also in different languages, which I found amazing. What is the main theme that you wish to be taken away from the book?
Well, the fact that, Jesus Christ died for sinners, and it could be your neighbor, it could be anyone you meet on the street, it could be, children are being taught about, their environments, about different people. So it's a way to sort of also let them know that, Jesus loves people, regardless of their language, regardless of where they're from. Jesus loves people. God is love. So it's also a way of breaking down barriers, introducing children to other children from other countries. So that is the concept behind the languages, and also it's evangelical. You've got a lot of missionaries working in different countries, and like the problem I found, there were no materials. So this is an excellent evangelical tool, especially for evangelists and missionaries working with very young children, for them to use to in their Sunday school classes, in their workshops, and things like that.
I find that quite surprising that there's not that much material.
Well, a lot of times the writers focus on adults, and then the children's books are mainly in English. But when you're working with young children at that age, on the mission field, they will not necessarily be able to speak English, especially in the rural areas. And the Lord has been sending me to rural areas. So it's the grassroots ministry that I have. And that is why I do it in local languages, to reach out in a way that these young children can understand.
Yeah. What would you say, Ruth? I want you to give some encouragement to maybe people listening who feel that they have the call of an evangelist. Of course, we're all called to evangelists, but some people are actually called to go out and you say what you're doing into remote areas and to different countries. What would you encourage? How would you encourage someone to start if they've got a dream, or God's given them a vision like He gave you?
I think if God has put missionary work in your heart, is to seek the Lord, to find out where He wants you to go in particular, and secondly, to do research about the people you're being sent to, what language they speak, what is their culture, because a lot of times, like I've found out, is that there are certain cultural barriers, and if you don't know, you could innocently upset people. So find out about the people you're going to. What is their culture? How is the method through which you can reach people? You can't just approach people. You have to go through people that know the people.
Yes.
So it's liaising with people, connecting with people, talking with people, making your vision quite clear on what you want to do. If you are going to preach the gospel, be quite clear, because if you say you just want to have a talk, you just want to teach the children, and then you suddenly start teaching them about Jesus, and you've not said that you're preaching about Jesus, then you could come up with problems.
Yeah.
Be quite clear on what you're going to do, because I don't always go to Christian organizations. I have opportunities sometimes to go to schools, and I tell them, well, I'm a missionary, a Christian missionary, and this is what I'm going to do. Oh yeah, why not? They like it. The fact that you're coming from a different country as well, they want children to meet their people from other countries. You'd be surprised. Sometimes we're afraid to talk about Jesus people want to know about him. Have you not heard about Jesus?
Fantastic. Yeah, that's a great question. That's a really great question. Ruth, we're fast approaching the end of the hour and it's gone so quickly. What I want to know firstly is what's next for you, Ruth? And also, how can people find out more about the book? Where can they buy it? Where can they download it? Tell us all that.
Okay, what's next for me is to print as many copies as possible and make them freely available to people within the countries that the languages within which I've published. Like I have it in Mandarin. I've got this book, Have You Not Heard About Jesus, in Mandarin, Filipino, Dutch, Russian, German and French. So it's to have as many copies as possible and send it out to the mission field and make it freely available. And to do that, you need the finances. So it's my prayer for God to provide so that these can be printed and sent out in huge numbers.
And if people want to support you, where can they go?
They can go to my website, gihonpublishing.com.
That's Gihon?
Yes, as in Gihon River in the Bible. gihonpublishing.com.
Yes.
And you can send me an email at info@gihonpublishing.com. There are copies to download, so you can share that download copy. If you want a hard copy, you can email me and I'll send that out to you to spread the word.
To spread the word. And
especially to
missionaries. So where can they download the copy from?
From the website.
From the website.
Yes.
And they can go to YouTube and get the animated version?
That's right. Just put in Have You Not Heard About Jesus, Ruth Dickson or Gihon Publishing, and it should come up.
Should come up.
There's two versions, by the way. There's a first edition and second edition.
You're listening to the all-new Big Breakfast.